back here to deliver second half of a Lynchburg basketball doubleheader, kicking off the December slate of games. Now on the men's side, once again, I am Sam Graham, joined by my good friend Andrew Watson. We're really excited about the one we got on tap. It's going to be Lynchburg and Virginia Wesleyan. Big ODAC matchup for Lynchburg coming into this one after a loss to Ferrum on the road, but the last time they were here, came away with very solid victory over a good EMU team. On the other side, for Virginia Wesleyan, they are coming off a loss to a very stout opponent in number 8 Randolph-Macon. That was their first of the season, but statistically and historically, this matchup has really not been kind to the Hornets.
Yeah, no it is not. Virginia Wesleyan from 2000 to 2016 won 31 straight matchups in a row. And to be honest, it hasn't gotten much better for the Hornets. Out of the last 44 matchups, only 4 have gone the way of Lynchburg. So we're hoping that we don't see that continue today, but there's going to be a lot of things that Lynchburg and Virginia Wesleyan are going to have to do to either keep that streak going or to end that streak. So I'm going to check out today's keys to the game. So first off, Virginia Wesleyan, they like to play a little bit slower than Lynchburg does, average 12 less shots. So Virginia Wesleyan is going to need to control the tempo. We know Lynchburg at times likes to push the ball and get out in transition. However, for Virginia Wesleyan, while they take less shots, they need to take efficient shots as well. Obviously, when you play slower, taking bad shots late in the shot clock is not a good idea. And for Lynchburg on the other side, they need to get out in transition. Obviously, try and break down that defense that Virginia Wesleyan has. They give you a bunch of different looks. They'll play a 1-3-1 zone. They'll play a man. I mean, they'll give you anything that you can deal with on the defensive end. And then finally for Lynchburg, they need to get out off to better starts coming out of breaks. We've seen flashes where they look like one of the better teams in the conference, but then they come out of a break and sometimes they're just a little bit flat. So hopefully they can expand and be a little bit better today coming out of timeouts and halftime breaks.
Absolutely. Looking at the break statistic and that Eastern Mennonite game, they really, took control late on in the first half, and you come out of the second half, it's a quick 11-0 Eastern Mennonite run. But yeah, I mean, you talk about those keys to the game. Lynchburg certainly trying to reverse the narrative in this matchup. So let's get you a quick look now at the team comparison for this one. Obviously for Lynchburg, what jumps out immediately is the rebound number, the assist number, and then they do a pretty good job at turning the ball over from a steals perspective. But Andrew, walk us a little bit through what to expect from Virginia Wesleyan.
Well, for Virginia Wesleyan, they don't take a lot of threes. They like to use their size and length advantage to help them. And when I say they don't take a lot of threes, they average just a tick below 20. So still enough to win basketball games. However, that's almost 10 less than Lynchburg takes. So if you're Lynchburg, you really need to be able to defend the inside and just try and figure out a way to deal with these big forwards and centers that Virginia Wesleyan has on their squad. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Lynchburg matches up against the Marlins today.
Well, a lot of things to keep an eye on in this one. I know that the two of us are excited. We hope you are at home. We'll be right back in just a moment for starting lineups and tip-off here on LHSN.
John Eckles joined the Lynchburg College community in 1986 as Director of Housing. As his famous beard grew, so too did his stature with the students he served on a daily basis. He seemed to be everywhere and rapidly became an integral part of campus life. He was asked to serve temporarily as Dean of Students in 1993 and soon earned the position on a permanent basis. In 2007, he became Vice President for Student Development, a position he held until his retirement in 2016. Simply put, John Eckles set the standard for student affairs professionals. He led the growth of Hornet pride throughout the last 2 decades of his service through his direct and constant interaction with students, through his colorful sense of humor, through his visibility on campus, through the red chairs, the red chair blogs, and all the colorful emails to students. He created the annual Leadership Awards ceremony. In addition, John contributed his sense of humor, his calm demeanor, and his common sense approach to the leadership of the college at the highest levels of administration. He even donned a hard hat and work boots to supervise the construction of the Drysdale Student Center. His summer talks to new students, although wrapped in humor, were serious as he spoke his mantra, "Involvement is not an option, it is an expectation." He lived that ideal through his own involvement in student life, as the head cheerleader at Hornet athletic contests, and as a friendly and approachable face for generations of students. His legacy is a treasure for the students whose lives he impacted and a challenge for the entire university community to emulate.
As promised, we were not away for long. Starting lineups getting set to be announced on the floor. As we get ready for them, just now a few moments from tip-off. Lineups have not made their way up top. Oh wait, no they have, excuse me. Running through this real quickly for Virginia Wesleyan. It'll be Kai Sargent, Miles Wallace, Amalian Wilson, Jordan Crump, and Eric Rowland. And then for Lynchburg, that starting lineup's been a bit of a case of musical chairs, but today it will be Kuda Savage. Elijah Davis makes his way into the starting lineup. Very promising three-point shooter, joined by Trey Pittman, coming off a great game against Ferrum. And then it will be Miles Taylor and Pearson Young will round out the starting crew for the Hornets. And talk about Pearson Young, we got a few good freshmen to keep an eye on in this matchup on both sides, but we'll start with Pearson Young for Lynchburg. He's been just fantastic. Last home game against Eastern Mennonite, picked up his first double-double of his young career, nearly made it a triple-double. He had to leave the game a little early due to an injury. Just 3 assists away from making that a triple-double, 11, 14, and 7. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's definitely someone that the entire team is very, very excited about, and he's really had sparks to show that he might even be like a first-team All-ODAC contender. He's played really, really well, and this lineup today is not what we've seen throughout the year. Obviously, Trey Pittman, the leading scorer for the Hornets, making a start, and Elijah Davis starting, and a lot of shooting power. Firepower out there, and Kuda Savage, the leading assist man out there for the Hornets, and he's going to do a really good job of facilitating tonight for Lynchburg. But I'm really excited to see how they react to this initial punch that Virginia Wesleyan is going to give them. Obviously, Virginia Wesleyan has the length, they have the defense, they have the shooting, they have the efficiency. Everything that you would not want to match up against this Lynchburg team is what Virginia Wesleyan has, and they like to play in the half court. They like to play a little bit slower, and we're going to see how Lynchburg kind of evolves. They started out the year playing really, really fast, and since then they've kind of figured out how to play in the half court, and it's been really beneficial for them, obviously picking up that win here last time at home against Eastern Mennonite. So first home game since then. It'll be exciting to see how they can react to this Virginia Wesleyan squad.
Well, absolutely. When your only loss is to the current number 8, preseason number 1 team in the country in Randolph-Macon, a team that's won back-to-back national titles, you know you've got some things figured out and going the right way for you. As the opening tip will be controlled by the Marlins, and as we get into game time here, another freshman really on the other side, as you see in the starting lineup there now with the ball in his hand, Kai Sargent. Been off to a great start to his freshman campaign, averaging over 10 points per contest, so excited to see how this game goes for him.
Yeah, and in the early going, I think the real test for Lynchburg is going to be on that defensive end. Can they sit down in late shot clock situations and really lock down this Marlin team? Obviously, Lynchburg giving up just 81 points, so not exactly ideal in comparison, but maybe a good team to get that margin down, considering that Virginia Wesleyan doesn't move the ball or doesn't play as quick as other teams that they've played.
There's Young, who we talked about early on. Rebound, tough rebound grabbed by Elijah Davis. He's known for his three-point shooting ability, but he goes down low, secures the rebound, goes back up strong with it, and 2 points instead of 3 to start the day out for Elijah Davis. Has Lynchburg on the board first.
Yeah, one of the keys we talked about, Lynchburg needs to come out strong. Obviously, it's a Virginia Wesleyan team that is very, very consistent. So if Lynchburg could come out strong, put in a couple early buckets like they're doing right now, they're going to be in a really good spot going forward.
Well, credit that one to Trey Pittman. We didn't mention it. Rather, I didn't mention it running through those starting lineups. He had a fantastic outing against Ferrum the other day. Picked up a double-double, new career high, 16. See there, he moves so well without the ball. He's one of the best guys on this Lynchburg team at just finding ways to get himself open. And every time the pass comes his way, he's ready and in a position to shoot. He hardly ever even has to dribble. Just really does everything right. And above all that, he's also 6'7", and he gives you the chance to match up with this taller Virginia Wesleyan team.
Which makes a lot of sense why we see Miles Taylor and Elijah Davis in the lineup today. Maybe not because of production, but for just the matchups that Virginia Wesleyan really applies for you. It's always tough to play the matchup game considering you have to score points, but they've looked really good on both sides of the ball to start out.
That ball will be awarded to Lynchburg, and just touching on Elijah Davis again, I mean, you saw how fired up he was after that putback shot to get the scoring going here, and then really, you know, diving on the ground after that loose ball there. He just brings such a great energy about him, and, you know, does a great job of injecting some enthusiasm into this team. We talked about Maddie Nimmo doing that some on the girls' side. That's one of Elijah Davis's big role for this men's team.
You know, it's something that you see across the entire squad. I mean, he takes the charge, the entire bench gets up, and they're excited for him. I mean, a lot of times you don't see people excited for a defensive play, and
there's going to be a travel. That one will go against Wilson. 6'5" forward out of Hampton, Virginia. And again, that 6'5" number, it's not just 6'5", 6'5" and long, and you just see that really across the board. I mean, pretty much every player on the floor for Virginia Wesleyan, save maybe Miles Wallace, can really just stretch the floor with their length, and they will certainly exploit that, as you've mentioned several times already tonight.
And that's something that we'll see later if they ever switch back into that 1-3-1 zone. It's just hard to move the ball around, considering that they cover almost every passing lane with a step to their right or a step to their left. So it'll be interesting to see how Lynchburg can respond to the different defensive sets that Virginia Wesleyan is going to throw up at them. As we see here, they're already throwing up a full court pressure to some extent.
Virginia Wesleyan has been methodical and patient as we expected on the offensive end, but the shot's just not falling so far. As there, Kuda Savage says, my bad. Kind of just gets caught with nowhere else to go and walks his way into a travel. Here we go inside, and could not make it look much easier than Wilson did there. Just using the speed to get to the basket with ease. A foul on the other end. That will go against Kai Sargent, who we mentioned earlier. I believe that is the second already this half for Sargent.
Yeah, and already we talked about how important it was for Lynchburg to get out in transition. Although that wasn't really a fast break opportunity for them, they got up the floor pretty quick and were able to draw a foul in there before Virginia Wesleyan was able to set up their defense. So that's going to be really important for Lynchburg going forward if they want to not only continue to score, but do it with a pace that is beneficial to them.
Anthony Jackson checks in place of Sargent, picking up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes. That's, again, as we said earlier, a double-digit score for this Virginia Wesleyan team. They have multiple guys that can hurt you, as we know, but always hate to lose an offensive piece like that so early on in the contest. Virginia Wesleyan, second opportunity here. Three-pointer will go up and will go in. Credit Eric Rowland on the shot. Also one of the top rebounders for a Virginia Wesleyan team that, similar to what we'll see from Lynchburg, not really one key rebounder, rather a group effort. And we saw it there. Offensive rebound leads to the second chance opportunity. How about Trey Pittman? Same spot, same shot, same result. Trey Pittman with an early 4, clearly feeding off his 16-point scoring outburst earlier in the week against Ferrum.
And right there, you just see the height advantage and the length that Virginia Wesleyan has going up and making a shot over a Trey Pittman there. It's not easy over a guy who's 6'7".
Certainly. He's one guy that can really stretch this Virginia Wesleyan team. What a pass there. Out for the open three-pointer. And off the bench comes Anthony Jackson, pouring in a 3 of his own. Gives Virginia Wesleyan its first lead of the game at 10-8.
Yeah, Virginia Wesleyan team that shoots the 3-ball relatively well, right around 36%. So we talked about it in the women's game. You don't really want to give them those open shots.
Savage watching that pivot foot, gave up the ball to Elijah Davis, went up with the floater, unable to connect on it, bounced around the rim just as Pittman's shot did. A 3 on the other end goes up, bounces off the rim and the backboard on its way into the net. That one will get Jordan Crump going. Credit him with the assist on that last Jackson 3 as well. Saved that ball from going out of bounds. Looked like he was going to catch it for an alley-oop, instead finding the open man in the air. They go inside. Savage, foul called. And it will be an offensive foul. Savage stepping in and taking the charge.
Yeah, great defensive positioning there from Kuda Savage. It's always helpful when you get a steal, but a turnover in the form of an offensive foul is just as good.
Well, and how about Savage? You know, missed a few games due to injury, had that scary tumble against Christopher Newport, but now in his last 3 games, double digits in 2 of those 3. One of them he came off the bench, so great obviously to see him back in the starting lineup and giving the contribution that we knew he was ready to give now in his senior season.
Yeah, and I feel like the majority of that is coming into the year. Everyone kind of thought he was going to have to be the guy they rely on to score as well. And then as we went on, we kind of realized that he's more of a facilitator in terms of maybe not even physical assists, but just being a leader on the team. So he's really stepped into a role that we didn't expect him to need to.
Definitely seems to be a comforting force out on the floor. Landon Sutton's checked in his place, however. Saw a wide open 3-point look go up there from Wallace. It was unable to connect on it, but yet again, second opportunity for Virginia Wesleyan. Wallace playing the position game, but Lynchburg active hands. On the break, Kevon James assists Landon Sutton, and it doesn't get much more beautiful than that. Scoring in transition, as was one of your keys to the game, Andrew. Lynchburg forces the turnover and able to score on the other side as we look at it again.
Yeah, that's definitely a key for them. If they can get out in transition before Virginia Wesleyan sets up that defense, they'll definitely have a lot of success, but it is key that they don't rely on it too much. It's not something that you want to go down the floor every time looking to push the pace, because sometimes you have to play in the half court.
Well, we have hit our first time out, but definitely want to stay here just to break down some of what we've seen already. I mean, just about 6 minutes gone by in this game, but already a 13-10 lead for Virginia Wesleyan. Lynchburg came out with the upper hand, but a couple of good looks from 3 that have been cashed in for Virginia Wesleyan has them right back in it.
Yeah, and I would say Lynchburg hasn't been scoring the ball too bad. A couple defensive lapses, leaving a few open threes, maybe on shifting defenders, just losing where their guy was. But, I mean, Virginia Wesleyan already has 3 3-pointers through this game, and if they're going to keep shooting at that clip, it's going to be very hard to beat them. So if you're Coach Hillary Scott sitting in that huddle right now, you're telling them, well, I mean, yes, you made a couple mistakes in terms of losing your defender, but at the same time, if Virginia Wesleyan shoots 50% of their threes and makes them, it's going to be tough to hang with them regardless.
Well, absolutely, and I mean, we talked about getting off to better starts, whether that's coming out of, you know, a timeout, coming out of the halftime break, or just starting the game, and Lynchburg comes out and goes up 6-2. Now they've fallen behind. You get the timeout, get a chance to try and reset. And hopefully you can come out here and string together a couple more quality possessions. But, yeah, it's just like you said. It's not that, you know, the possessions that aren't resulting in baskets haven't necessarily been good looks. I mean, I can think of 3 shots already that have just bounced all around the rim and just haven't fallen in for them.
Yeah, and even on the same side for Virginia Wesleyan, they've had a couple shots like that one that would have just rimmed out. But, I mean, in the early going, both teams scoring at a clip that's pretty good, and they're both playing pretty good on the offensive end, I would say.
Well, that one was Amari Moore, another notable first-year player for this Virginia Wesleyan team, but quickly an answer. Landon Sutton makes his way into the paint. And Andrew, if I didn't know better, I'd think that you were just coaching the Lynchburg team. I mean, shying away a little bit from the three-pointer early in this game, prizing the ball, you know, looking for quality shots. Defense leaves a little bit to be desired, as there goes the second 3 already for Jackson, who's off the bench, just replacing Kai Sargent, not a starter. He comes in and gives you 2 quick triples.
Yeah, for the Hornets, I think it's good that you're running that full court offense, but if you get beat, you have to get back. Pittman adds 2 more to his total, but as soon as Virginia Wesleyan seems to be breaking down that press, they're looking for an open shooter, and obviously you're going to capitalize on an open 3 from the corner more often than not. So Lynchburg just needs to be careful about when they do run that zone, or sorry, that full court defense, that they don't get caught leaving people behind them.
Absolutely, there's an open man. Just got lost in transition. And once again, Virginia Wesleyan makes the Hornets pay. That one was Joey Lee. His first points of the day, but now Lynchburg takes over again offensively. There's a Kevon James 3, found a little bit of a crease. Went ahead and took the shot. That possession looked a little different than the previous ones for Lynchburg. Also get a chance to see Jason Easton now in the game. He's matched up with Moore for Vawez. A foul there, I believe, will go against Pittman. Will be his first, but we'll send him to the bench. Mason Makovic, who's out to a very solid start to his sophomore campaign, will check in his place. Misspoke earlier. Joey Lee is who the foul will go against. It's offensive foul number 2 for Virginia Wesleyan. Now we get a chance to see Jordan Parham in the game as well. Speaking of good outings against Eastern Mennonite in the last home game, he poured in 20, just one shy of his career high. Found his touch from 3 as well. How about the block from Wilson? Taking the shot of Easton off the board. Kevon James forces a steal, gives it up. Parham, transition layup, will not drop. And that's how you draw up the fast break, but sometimes the ball just does not break your way.
And I would say you take those looks all game, regardless of if they're falling in the early going.
Jackson looks like maybe from his follow-through, he might not have been totally set on that three-point attempt. Would have been his third make of the day had he hit it. Look at that block again. All ball, just pinning it against the backboard there was Wilson.
But I do think that was a really good play there. Obviously, it looked set up by Lynchburg to have Easton run that baseline and kind of slip behind his defender, and that play is going to work more often than not. Obviously, if you have a really athletic defender, and what Virginia Wesleyan has all the time, so they're going to be tough to make those layups over a guy who's bigger than you, but at the same time, a quality look is one that's at the rim.
Makovic takes a little spill there, catches the ball with his shoe, which actually probably slowed down this, what would have been a Virginia Wesleyan fast break. So accidental maybe, but positive result. Get a foul there going against the Hornets. Solid crowd has accumulated here in Turner Gymnasium for the second half of our doubleheader today, including Lynchburg's women's basketball team. There is another Virginia Wesleyan 3. This time it's Eric Rowland. And it's a bit of a three-point barrage here early for the Marlins.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, I feel like Lynchburg isn't playing that bad of defense. As Kevon James called for the travel there, but Lynchburg on the defensive end has actually looked relatively solid. You can't really defend a team much if they've made 50% of their three-pointers to this point, and especially if they're launching them at the rate that they are right now. Virginia Wesleyan's on pace to score quite a few points, especially from behind the three-point arc, but Lynchburg, I think, just needs to stick with it because eventually those shots will either stop falling or they'll have to guard on the perimeter, which then opens up an entirely new problem for the Hornets.
Well, yeah, I mean, to your point, you look at a guy like Amari Moore, you know, a long 6'6", Eric Rowland, a long 6'5", Anthony Jackson, a long 6'4". You know, it's not always just about the height, but also the arm length, the wingspan, things like that just, similar to Kevin Durant, just make it hard to guard some of these shots.
Yeah, and more so the athleticism than anything else. There haven't been many shots that Lynchburg has taken today that have really been open. Every single shot has been contested because whether you're 10 feet or 5 feet away from the guy, he's able to close out on you very quickly because Virginia Wesleyan is just that quick and that long. So it'll be interesting to see if Lynchburg is able to maybe move the ball or run a couple of set plays and cut into this lead, and to just, you know, give them some confidence going towards the rim.
Well, Easton got a pretty good look at a 3 there, just unable to cash in on it. But, yeah, I mean, you glance up at the scoreboard, this lead has ballooned up to 10 points already. But you look down at the court and it feels like this has been a very even game really from start to where we are now. Now, yes, there's been a few open looks for threes that Virginia Wesleyan's put up as a result of some of that movement, and see it again there. The spacing's fantastic as well. That one just does not make its way in. Taylor originally came away with the ball, but it's going to stay with Virginia Wesleyan inbounding under their own basket. Ball makes its way in, back to the inbounder. And Miles Wallace just off the mark. But there is Rowland on the offensive rebound, and early on, Virginia Wesleyan cashing in on some of these second chance opportunities.
Yeah, and it's something we talked about. It wasn't in the keys of the game, but Lynchburg always needs to be efficient on the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, those rebounds and everything, it just goes one step further for the Hornets if they really want to compete in this game.
Well, a great take there by Jordan Parham, cutting through the lane. Makovic nearly forced a turnover. Now Lynchburg will gain possession. It's that pass unable to be corralled by Rowland. He's going to head to the bench, as will Landon Sutton for Lynchburg. Elijah Davis back into the game. Taylor sets the offense in motion, gives it up, give and go. Miles Taylor, 2 steps, he's at the rim. And it's an easy finger roll in close.
Yeah, another great kind of a set play, I would say, maybe, to give him that opportunity to get to the rim. Obviously, we've seen him have a couple of great games this year, obviously on the road against CNU. Team didn't play too well, but he put up 20, and I think he'll be a key going forward, just considering his height and his strength on the offensive end. There's not much that Virginia Wesleyan can do to really match up with him well, considering that he can shoot from the perimeter and get inside, as you just saw.
Well, you know, as we were speculating about, you know, this particular combination of the Lynchburg starting 5, which it is key to note that Hillary Scott in a conversation earlier this year said that, you know, he's not too concerned with who starts the game for his team, more so about who's playing well on the day and who's going to be in a position to finish the game. That's a bit of a sidebar, but just analyzing, you know, who they sent out there. Yeah, Miles Taylor, absolutely one of those guys that provides some length for you and can get in some of these passing lanes and have a little bit of an easier time getting his shot up than, you know, maybe a guy like Kuda Savage or Kevon James. Yeah,
and he also talked about that positionless basketball, and it's something you see here today. I mean, you've got 3 or 4 guys on the court right now that can almost match Virginia Wesleyan in length, and if you put them up against a normal team, they might look like 3 forwards, but for Lynchburg, they're playing one or two of them as a guard tonight. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can react in maybe a different role than what they've seen the rest of the year.
Well, Taylor in transition goes through the lane. He was unsuccessful, but on the other side, Sargent, who is checked back into the ball game, immediately puts 2 points next to his name. First 2 of the game for him. Makovic has the ball stripped out of his hands down low.
Yeah, and just another one of those shots that just rolls around the rim and doesn't go in there for Elijah Davis. And you're down 10, but it really does not feel like it. The energy in the building doesn't feel like you're down 10 points. So for the Hornets, maybe a couple good possessions here and there and a couple defensive stops will be extremely helpful for that.
Certainly doesn't. And how about only 4 3-point shots going up now? You know, well, 3 before that Elijah Davis shot. So you're talking about 3 in the first almost 13 minutes of this first half. That's very different from the brand of Lynchburg basketball we've seen early on in the year.
Yeah, and from what we heard it was going to be, that would almost be unheard of. I mean, Lynchburg doing a good job, however, of getting the ball inside, running a couple set plays to get some easy shots. And you also have to think that a lot of the shots for them just haven't rolled in. This could be a 2-point game if those balls that rolled around on the rim went in. So for the Hornets, you're definitely confident about your position, even though you're still down 10 points.
There's a 3-point shot. Elijah Davis grabbed the offensive rebound. Looked like he may have been met with little contact. No foul called. His shot was off. Rebounded again, and that draws the ire of the Virginia Wesleyan bench will also bring us to a timeout. We'll take it with them. Step aside here for a moment. When we return, we'll have the last 6.5 minutes of this first half here on LHSN.
I was looking for a school that could provide me with the athletics, academics to pursue my career, a wind symphony to pursue my passion for music, and really have a nice general atmosphere. The professors here are really unique, their background and their passion for teaching. It's really a place where you can explore. Lynchburg gives you the opportunity to fail, but also get back up in that period of time and learn from your mistakes. I can make these mistakes within the school environment, but also with the support of other friends, and be ready for the real world when you graduate.
.635 remaining in the first half of this one. Virginia Wesleyan leading 28-18. Give you a chance to take a little peek at some of the stat leaders so far in this so far in this season. First for Lynchburg, obviously Trey Pittman, now the leading scorer on a team. That position's been a bit of a revolving door as this season's gone on, but his 16-point outing against Ferrum has surged him into the lead.
Yeah, and then Jordan Parham right behind him, I would say, is just as offensively capable as Trey Pittman. Obviously, it offers a different level of shooting in terms of where he can knock it down from behind the three-point line. And then for Kuda Savage leading in assists at 2.3, and then Miles Taylor, we talked about his athleticism and size with 7 rebounds a game leading the Hornets. So obviously what we're talking about is true to the stats thus far, and hopefully Lynchburg can get the ball inside and maybe utilize Miles Taylor's ability.
Well, Lynchburg was looking for the trap on Sargent, but he finds Jackson in the corner. Jackson buries his third three of this first half. Pittman's going to look to answer with one of his own, and he does. Trey Pittman's hot outing against Ferrum continues on his home court. He's got 11 first half points, still 5.5 to go.
And you see Lynchburg here kind of taking a page out of Virginia Wesleyan's book and switching their defense, forcing up a shot from the corner, which you'd love to see if you're Coach Hillary Scott, especially because that's not something we've really seen from the Hornets, especially in the half-court level.
Once again, the ball found Jackson in the corner, just like they drew it up on the last play. But this time, Lynchburg able to close out, get in his face, and force the miss. So great job there by Lynchburg and Coach Scott learning from a past mistake, and really almost everything about that play was the same as the one before it except the end result. So Virginia Wesleyan take back over here. Both teams doing a lot more operating in the half court. Not too abnormal for Virginia Wesleyan, but for Lynchburg, a marked change from what we've seen early on. Jackson taking up his post in the corner again. They go to him again. Taylor sells out for the steal, and it's going to cost him 3 points. Jordan Crump cashes in on the triple there. Davis will answer on the other side. That's 5 for Elijah Davis.
And just another transition bucket for the Hornets. It really just shows how important it is to get out in front of this Virginia Wesleyan defense, because if you're playing in the half court, I'm not sure you're coming back and cutting into this deficit just because Virginia Wesleyan is that good playing slowly.
Lynchburg assistant Riley Welch yelling at his players to move, and see the result. Find a wide open layup close into the basket. But the offense has been flowing well recently. Trey Pittman, he cannot be stopped. 6 of 7 from the floor. He's got 13. And we've still got about 4 minutes to go in this first half. Also worth noting, that last three-pointer from Elijah Davis broke a bit of a dry spell for everybody on the Lynchburg team not named Trey Pittman. Nobody else had more than 2. There we see another bucket from Jackson that will draw each team another trip to their respective benches.
Yeah, and there again, it just looked like maybe Lynchburg has lost an opposing player. I mean, Pittman was there, but by the time Virginia Wesleyan had put up that shot, there wasn't much Pittman could do, even being 6'7". He was just a little bit too far away, and that zone, I think, did good things, maybe to show Virginia Wesleyan a different look. However, once Virginia Wesleyan really kind of picked it apart, they realized that there's openings on the baseline, there's an opening at the free throw line, and they really took advantage of that. Obviously, because Virginia Wesleyan plays that defense. Now, we haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure we're close to seeing that from Virginia Wesleyan.
Certainly. So leading the charge for Virginia Wesleyan offensively so far, Eric Rowland with 10. Anthony Jackson has poured in 9 off the bench. So fantastic to see that from him, especially Virginia Wesleyan without one of their top offensive pieces in Amari DeVoe. The contested layup goes up from Savage. He went to the ground after. And on the other side, the runner converted upon there from Wallace.
Yeah, and you have to think if you're Virginia Wesleyan, you're extremely happy considering your leading scorer who averages 13.9 points per game is not even playing, and you're still up 12 and scoring at a clip that is pretty incredible.
Pearson Young perhaps settling a bit for an isolation 3 just off the dribble for a Lynchburg team that's clearly made an effort to really work the ball around today. See an air ball on the other side. So Lynchburg will take over, down 12, right around 3 minutes to go in this first half. So we take a look again at what Eric Rowland's done so far. We mentioned he's already in double figures. Done it from the three-point line, done it from the inside. He's really just been everywhere on both sides of the court. Meanwhile, Pittman's had the hot hand for Lynchburg. Turnaround jumper. Got it! Give him 2 more. Trey Pittman is on fire. Brings his total to 15 in this first half. The answer on the other side once again from Jordan Crump.
And it seems like every time there's a little bit of momentum and this gym kind of goes off, as you hear it once more with the 3 from Elijah Davis. I mean, Lynchburg is scoring at a clip that is pretty good too in comparison to them, but I mean, every single time Lynchburg seems to put a ball in a basket, Virginia Wesleyan responds with either a 3, that maybe they get fouled and they force a long possession, or just a mid-range jumper.
Elijah Davis, 8 quick points in this first half, pairs with 5 rebounds as well. Couple of triples, what he's known for on this team. He's got some really impressive per 40 numbers. It's been great to see him get such high minutes here in the last couple games, and obviously in tonight's contest. As Pittman gets tangled up there. Michael Gilbert, 6'8" sophomore, one of the 2 centers for this Virginia Wesleyan team. Each of those over 6'8", the other Harrison Bott, 6'10" junior out of Bath, United Kingdom.
Yeah, both teams thus far have done a pretty good job of staying out of foul trouble. It's something we talk about all the time. If you can get one of the other team's best players out of the game with 2 fouls early, then it really changes the dynamic. But both teams not doing that, and I mean, just not putting yourself in situations where you have to play without your best player.
Yeah, you talk about the lack of fouls today. We've seen 2 for Lynchburg. They made both of them. None for Virginia Wesleyan. And a quick glance at your watch will tell you, well, this game got going shortly after 4:30. It's only 5:05 here on the East Coast at least, and we've down to just 1:16 to go in this first half.
Yeah, they're definitely moving the ball quickly and not a lot of stoppages, and that kind of fits into what Lynchburg wants to do. It's just the ball's been moving so quick is because both teams have been scoring so well. Haven't seen a lot of turnovers and not much to stop the clock except for the few timeouts.
We got a different group on the floor here for Lynchburg to close out this first half. Savage still out there, but he's joined by Parham, James, Hargrove and Fitch. We're going to get an and one opportunity here. A strong take down low by Rowland. The spin move frees him up from the much smaller Jordan Parham. And there's the athleticism that you were talking about earlier, Andrew, just able to add a facet to the game where you're able to, create things for yourself.
Yeah, and if you could say that you just had to defend them on the three-point line, then this would be a pretty one-dimensional team. But as soon as you guard them on the three-point line, they can beat you by getting inside the paint. So it's kind of an issue for the Hornets to try and figure out which one they want to defend more.
Well, the first free throw of the night is off the mark there from Rowland. Would have been looking for his 13th point in this first half. So he's really gotten things going for Virginia Wesleyan. But how about Lynchburg getting out in transition? Haven't seen it a lot in this first half. Bakuda Savage also managing to kind of contort his body, alter that shot in the air, and still be able to knock down the transition layup. Just 26 seconds and counting now. Crump working his way around Hargrove. The footwork impeccable. And Crump putting together a very impressive first half as he becomes the third Marlin in double figures, joining Anthony Jackson and Eric Rowland. Have a foul on the floor. Conversation between officials and Kevon James. It's going to be awarded to Virginia Wesleyan. But we will get a break first. Teams head to their benches. Just 5.7 seconds to go in this first half. We'll just stick around here. Give us a chance to kind of talk about what we've seen so far in this first half. And I mean, on the Lynchburg side, we've seen a whole lot of Trey Pittman. 15 points in this one. He's got 2 rebounds as well, but it's really been the efficiency shooting, 7 of 8 from the field.
Yeah, and a lot of those shots are relatively contested in the paint, and it's something we haven't really seen from a lot of Lynchburg players lately, is putting up shots that are contested that go in. So maybe a welcome sign for the rest of the team to kind of say, we can all shoot the ball like this. I mean, they put up 35 points in the first half against a team who is very defensive-minded and is one of the better defensive teams in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. So there's a lot of positives to draw from in this first half, and we talk about momentum all the time and how far a bucket here would go for the Hornets as they head into the halftime buzzer.
Well, it's one thing to just talk about the length that Trey Pittman possesses as time ticks down. And Savage, essentially at the buzzer, draws Lynchburg back to within 9. They will hit the half down by a score of 46-37. Advantage still Marlins. They led for most of that first half. So we'll have a little 15-minute break here. We'll step aside when we come back. We'll look at the team comparison, a couple highlights and more here on LHSN.
Lynchburg really stood out for me just because of the way it treated its students. They really do make an effort here, and I've learned that over my 4 years is that they actually do try to listen to what the student body wants, and they try to act on that. They don't really just give you a piece of paper here to then go off and do your own thing. They actually prepare you to work with different populations, which is what the world is all about. It's just working with people that are different than you. They genuinely care that everyone has the ability to go off into the world and make a difference with whatever they like. For me, that's just being basically in a room with someone helping them achieve their first goal of, I don't know, doing a pull-up. I actually do believe they want you to do the best you can to change someone's life for the better. You can be anyone here, which I think is really cool. But regardless of who you are here, they will make sure you don't fall through the cracks, which is awesome. I have realized that I've never felt lost here. I will not regret ever coming here, that's for sure. So I'm very glad that I came here. Yeah, it's actually pretty awesome.
My name is Brittany Coleman. I graduated in 2014 and I have a major in chemistry and a minor in secondary education, and I'm currently teaching chemistry and 7th grade science at a local combined school. Being able to have access to your professors pretty much anytime they're in their office is really helpful, especially in difficult science subjects. I love that I am able to teach a difficult subject to students who typically aren't going to perceive it as enjoyable. I'm able to present it in an interesting way because I was presented this information in an interesting way. It's nice for me to be able to mirror what it was that influenced me to be able to teach.
Thomas Gibson Hobbs graduated from Virginia Christian College in 1904 as a member of its first graduating class. After earning a law degree from the University of Virginia, he settled in Lynchburg and began a highly successful career as an attorney. In January of 1915, he was invited to attend a meeting of the College Board of Trustees, during which the possibility of closing the college due to financial concerns was to be considered. Mr. Hobbs spoke eloquently of the need to fight for the college's existence, and the board decided to continue operating the institution. He was asked to serve on the board at that meeting and served as the chairman of the Board of Trustees from 1918 until his tragic death in 1942. Mr. Hobbs was a guiding light as the college changed its name to Lynchburg College and moved toward becoming an accredited liberal arts institution. His relationships with the economic power structure of the city played a critical role as the young college struggled financially through the depths of the Great Depression. His belief in Josephus Hopwood's vision of the college never wavered, as reflected in his message to the student body in the late 1930s. Lynchburg College, with continued wise leadership, is just on the threshold of development into an institution which will, in still larger measure, build sound leadership in church and school and state, a leadership which will look for its reward in the consciousness of service rendered and a task well done. Upon his death in 1942, the Board of Trustees unanimously adopted a resolution of appreciation which named Mr. Hobbs as, quote, the college's greatest leader, unquote.
A lot of people go to the universities to find something to be a part of while getting their education. And when you come here, Lynchburg is that something, it becomes a family. It's what this school's really good at doing.
biggest thing that I've taken from Westover is probably my interactions with faculty. I started working with Dr. Fryer. He's always available for help, and he makes sure that I get to do the experiments and not just be there while he does them. I didn't want to limit myself when I came here to just taking the prereqs for med school. I wanted to get a full, well-rounded education, and I definitely found that in the Westover program. It's given me the opportunity to keep playing soccer at a competitive level, but also it's given me the ability to be a student and to pursue other activities such as EMS. "100% do Westover because it's not something they're going to regret, and it's going to be a lot of work, but so is everything else. It's just going to help build their education that they've already had and make them a better person for it."
My name is Marlene Castaños. I graduated in 2009. I was a communication major. I am a digital producer now for the Martin Agency. So we have a lot of amazing clients from Geico to Land O'Lakes.
Well, about midway through this halftime period here between Virginia Wesleyan and Lynchburg. It's been a great one so far. Up and down offense. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. We'll get you a chance to take a quick look at some of these numbers as we have hit the half, a little team comparison. And Andrew, I know we've talked about several things that jump off, but what's the biggest in your eyes?
Well, the biggest thing for me is turnovers. Thus far, Virginia Wesleyan, 12 turnovers, and Lynchburg only has 4. However, you look at the points off turnovers, and they have the same amount of points. Both have 8 points off turnovers, so not something that is absolutely haunting for Lynchburg. Obviously, they're forcing a lot of turnovers, which you see sometimes from this team, but they just need to do a better job of capitalizing when Virginia Wesleyan turns the ball over.
And the other thing that's got to jump out are those three-point numbers. I mean, 33% for Lynchburg, not a bad number by any means. And, I mean, they're just 3 of 9. Most interesting point is that they've only taken 9 attempts. We'll get a chance to see a few of them here, but, I mean, for Lynchburg, a team that threw about 12 or 13 minutes of that first half had just been sitting at 3 three-point attempts. On the other side, Virginia Wesleyan taking them early and often and converting on a lot. You have to imagine that most likely that percentage won't stay as high in the second half. I mean, 53% is just ridiculous, but you're getting open looks, you're moving well, and you're converting on them.
Well,
Not much more you can say.
Sorry, if you think 53% on three-point is good, well, you look at their field goal percentage at 65.5%. I mean, it feels like every single time they shoot, it's going in. I mean, obviously, they've missed 10 shots, but I couldn't tell you when they missed them because every single shot they hit just feels like a momentum killer for these Hornets. And I'm sure that they'll stop hitting eventually, and the Hornets will have a chance to get back in this game in terms of points. But, I mean, Virginia Wesleyan thus far has looked incredible on the offensive end.
Well, we certainly expect a few adjustments to be made coming out of this halftime break. We talked earlier about how, obviously, you saw Trey Pittman just feasting down low, outside, spacing the floor like only he can do so well. But you have to imagine Virginia Wesleyan will definitely, first and foremost, make some effort to slow him down. But looking at the Virginia Wesleyan offense, how do you see Lynchburg, their defense being able to switch things up to try and slow them down?
Well, I think a lot of it is just, if you're going to play in a zone, you have to stick with your zones and not lose your man, And then if you're going to play a man offense, you can't lose them on those switches either. And that's where we've seen a lot of those open threes come, just because maybe someone's trying to close out to a guy that got beat, and then you look up and there's a wide open three from the corner. And obviously, they're going to be extremely efficient from a wide open three. So, I mean, if you're the Hornets, you just have to do a little bit better job of switching to the defenders.
Absolutely. Well, once again, your halftime score, Virginia Wesleyan 46, Lynchburg 37. We're just about 4 minutes from getting the second half underway. We'll step aside and come back for all of the second half action.
Everyone has a story, a triumph, a time they fell short, a gift, a light all their own. Every story has a beginning. For us, Our stories began long before we got here, at the moment we discovered we had something to share with the world. But no matter where we've been, our journeys weave together at the University of Lynchburg. Since 1903, we've grown from a handful of students to a diverse, dynamic community of students, professors, staff, and alumni around the world. In a community that supports who we are and who we want to be, we're on a journey to find where our passions lead so we can lead others to find theirs. Together, we have more experience, we have more knowledge than we do alone. Eventually, our stories will lead us to a path all our own, and we will share our passions with the world. No matter the journey we choose, the University of Lynchburg is, and always will be, our home.
Here's to life and here's to Lynchburg, to the years we spent together. I don't know when or how we gathered, but I know I'm home. So here's to love and here's to the heartache, all the laughter, every mistake. I don't know how our lives will be changed, but here I am home. Here I'm home.
At Lynchburg, we don't fear change. We embrace it in our students, on our campus, in our community, and around the world. We're building on our legacy of always moving forward. It's the same place with a new name. Welcome to the University of Lynchburg.
Well, getting set now for the second half of action here between Lynchburg and Virginia Wesleyan. It's been a fun one so far. Take a look at some of the students in attendance here today. Obviously, exams getting set to ramp up in the next week. Everybody taking a little bit of a study break and checking out a great game of basketball. And we talked at the break that Virginia Wesleyan, you have to imagine the defensive strategy would be to shut down Trey Pittman, but he picks up in the exact same fashion he did in the first half. He picks up the first 2 points.
Yeah, and I think Lynchburg did a good job of switching what defender was on Pittman there. Obviously, he had a little bit of a size advantage. Not exactly what I would have expected from Virginia Wesleyan coming out of the half, but, I mean, for the Hornets, good job to go against because you know that the Marlins came out with that idea.
Well, Pittman on the defensive end did a good job moving his feet, stayed away from fouling, able to alter that shot, and then in transition was Miles Taylor converting on the tough bucket and close. The Virginia Wesleyan lead just 7. Savage nearly loses it, gets it back. But Lynchburg, through those first two offensive possessions, certainly not out to a slow start. Elijah Davis, he's got his third triple of the day. That one from just about the Hornet wing, right around midcourt. Talk about range.
Yeah, and we talked about those keys, how you have to come out of the break strong, and it's something we haven't seen from Lynchburg all year, and yet they're come out and they've cut this game from 9 points to 4 in a little over a minute and 20 seconds. So, I mean, good on them to come out strong, and I'm sure if you're Virginia Wesleyan's head coach, you're a little bit confused about who this Lynchburg team really is.
And one thing that I remarked during the Eastern Mennonite game and that we've seen a lot today offensively from Lynchburg as they force the turnover there is that they do just such a fantastic job in these last two home outings about knowing when to take shots early in the shot clock and, get things in rhythm, and when to be a little more methodical, a little more patient. And I think you've seen the balance of that here early in the first half, gotten a little bit of everything. You saw the play designed for Trey Pittman. As they go inside to Pittman again, he finds a crease. But then you saw the transition layup coming off the quality rebound. And then, of course, right out of the inbound, the triple there cashed in by Elijah Davis. So fantastic start for Lynchburg. Couldn't ask for much more, and it draws a very early Virginia Wesleyan timeout.
Yeah, and you're right about how we questioned if they were going to be able to find that balance between playing fast and getting out in transition or playing in the half court. And you're right, they have done a really good job to this point, but if you're Coach Hillary Scott in that timeout, you have to be wondering what Virginia Wesleyan is going to come out with here. Obviously, offense is really working, so maybe this is the time that Virginia Wesleyan changes up that defense just a little bit if they want to go back to that 1-3-1 zone that we haven't seen yet today. And obviously, Lynchburg is prepared for it because they can play it themselves, so they're going to be used to it, but it's going to be a different look. So it'll be helpful for the Marlins to maybe change things up on the defensive side.
Well, and how cool is it to see from the Lynchburg side of things, two guys in Trey Pittman and Elijah Davis that you and I both remarked, noticing their per 40 numbers, and just really calling for them to, saying we'd really like to see them play a little more. Well, we're seeing them play today, and the two of them in double figures here early in the second half combined for 30 of Lynchburg's points.
Yeah, and they haven't just been doing it on the offensive end. They're a really good matchup for this Virginia Wesleyan team. We talked about Virginia Wesleyan's length, but Elijah Davis, 11 points thus far, and if you could count how many how many points he's denied on the defensive end, it would probably be near that, if not more. So doing a really good job on both sides of the ball early in this second half.
Elijah Davis got quite a stroke from three. We've seen it 3 times already this evening. But now Virginia Wesleyan, they're going to look to stop this Lynchburg run, and they do with a great little turnaround move, spin move I should say, in close from Wilson. Haven't heard much from him since early on in that first half, but we'll see if that shot's able to inject a little life into the Virginia Wesleyan offense that's been a little stifled through the first 2.5 minutes of this half. Maybe an ill-advised turnaround shot there from Pittman. He's gotten a lot of success from it early. Looks like he wanted some contact. Defense was all over that shot, but that one may have just been a little bit too far from the basket.
Yeah, and I think if you're the Hornets, you have to realize that you can't rely on him too much. Obviously, he's having an incredible game to this point. I'm sure he's going to continue it, but the points are going to come now from other people stepping up and taking the open shots when they go to maybe double Pittman or try and trap him in the corner. Someone else somewhere on the court is going to be open.
That was just the second miss of the afternoon for Trey Pittman on 11 attempts. Virginia Wesleyan on the other side. Pass is mishandled by Crump. He had a really good first half, pouring in 10 points, one of 3 Marlins in double figures. But just pass comes in a little bit at his feet. He's not able to stop it before it rolls out of bounds. Here's another 3 from Pearson Young. The freshman has been quiet today, but sensational this season. And he's got his first 3 of the night. Now a steal, 3-on-2 break. Taylor in, sidestep, layup, and Lynchburg takes its first lead since it was 10-8. Lynchburg with all of the momentum right now, both offensively and defensively. Virginia Wesleyan continues to be methodical, continues to be patient. No frustration or panic. Shot clock rolling down. Shot blocked away by Taylor. That's going to come after the offensive foul. One way or another, Lynchburg comes out of that fray with the ball.
Yeah, and that's the second time today that we've seen Kuda Savage really sacrifice his body to take that offensive foul. And we talk about how he facilitates in terms of assists, but he also gets the ball back for the Hornets. And there you see right there Miles Taylor laying it up on that transition bucket to give the Hornets the lead. And good things happen when this Lynchburg team has gotten out in transition today.
Well, you're absolutely right. It was one of your keys to the game. And I mean, for this Lynchburg team, it's a team that has learned how to navigate the break a lot better. It's Pearson Young, after the good dribble move, gives the ball up to Sutton. Sutton takes the shot, misses it. On the other end, Sargent back into the game after a little foul trouble in the first half. He's going to have a chance to convert on a three-point play. Look at it again, just keeps that ball up high. Draws contact and able to finish strong and close. This will be just the second free throw of the game for Virginia Wesleyan. And it will be the first make at the line for the Marlins. Virginia Wesleyan back in front now, 53-51. It's been a fast start to this second half, expected nothing less. Young gets stuck, Pittman forces the tie up, and possession arrow pointing Lynchburg's way. Heads up play there from the junior. We talked about his scoring, but he's made a couple of good defensive plays already in this half, and there's just a heads up play. Now Lynchburg spaced out, forming a square for this inbound play. Man defense for Virginia Wesleyan, and getting in the passing lane there is Wilson, forcing the steal. Quickly on the other end, Jackson back into the game for the Marlins. Gave them a big lift off the bench in that first half. He's looking for the through ball of sorts to Wilson, who had the angle on Pittman, but just couldn't get it through to him.
Yeah, and when one offensive key steps out of the game in Pearson Young, you get another one coming in Jordan Parham. So at this point, if you're Virginia Wesleyan, you're kind of wondering, when are we going to get a break? Pittman's out there playing really well. Miles Taylor's playing really well, and then Pearson Young comes out, and yet the guy who's coming in for him is the one who put up 20 a couple nights ago. So Lynchburg looks like they're in a good spot for the time being.
Somehow Pittman comes out of the fray. He's going to pick up the assist, dumps it off to Taylor, who cashes in another in close. That brings Miles Taylor's scoring total to 8 and ties us up at 53. We're going to take a quick break, give everybody a chance to catch their breath, and we will be right back here on LHSN. Well, coming out of that timeout, get you a chance to check out the head coach for the Marlins, Dave Macedo, now in his 23rd season at the helm of the Marlin program.
Yeah, and he's done a really good job for Virginia Wesleyan. Obviously, he does have that national championship back in 2005, 2006, so he's a really good coach, and he's the all-time winningest coach among every ODAC team. So, I mean, if you're Coach Hillary Scott, you're standing there, you're a good coach yourself, and yet you're coaching with this guy who led this team to a national championship quite a while ago, obviously, but still, the cream of the crop in the ODAC.
A lot of talent in this conference, both players and coaches. And we're getting a display of a little bit of it all tonight. Pull-up shot there from Roland. He has not scored yet. Excuse me, has just 2 points in the second half. On the other end, another layup credited to Trey Pittman. Number 12 in white is having himself a career day. Surpassed his career high, which he set against Ferrum a good while back in this game now, but scoring total has risen to 21. That number leads all scorers by a wide margin.
Yeah, we questioned what he was going to look like on the offensive end in terms of
bodies hit the deck. First it was Sutton and Sargent got tangled up with one another.
and I believe they're going to charge that foul to Miles Taylor.
Yeah, Wallace was the ball handler. He hit the ground hard, just seemed to lose his footing. Good to see him get up. He'll head to the bench and have a quick conversation with the Lynchburg trainers. Sends the teams back to their respective benches for a moment. I'm sure officials will check the floor, see if there's any wet spots or anything.
Yeah, a couple players hitting the floor there. Obviously, Landon Sutton getting into a little bit of a tangle there. Started that kind of collapse of people on the floor, I guess. But I'm not exactly sure where the foul came from. And Coach Hillary Scott is thinking the same thing as he's arguing with these officials. But at the end of the day, tie game, or sorry, not a tie game. Lynchburg up 2. 13 minutes left. Nothing you can be too upset, especially when you're playing a team that is this good.
Well, we said at the halftime break, there's not much Lynchburg could change on the offensive end, although I would contend they've come out with an even better offensive output than we saw in the first half. I mean, the offense has been crisp, and then the defense, I mean, what more could you really ask for on that end, too? You're stopping a team that you're arguably just looking at the pure tangibles, you may be a little outmatched against when it comes to, you know, that length that we've talked about, that athleticism that we've talked about. Not to say Lynchburg doesn't have an athletic team as well. They certainly have their fair share of capable athletes, but just step for step with Virginia Wesleyan the whole way. All those open looks that we saw in the first half that they were able to cash in on, especially from the three-point line, have just been totally absent here in the second half.
Yeah, to take a page out of old T.J. Wengert's book, the best defense is a good offense. So, I mean, for Lynchburg, defensively, if you saw 53 points with this much time left, you wouldn't be too happy, and yet you look up and they're winning against one of these teams. So, just a great showing on both sides of the ball thus far for both teams.
Worth noting that the largest Virginia Wesleyan's lead rose to in that first half was 14 with 2:47 to go in the half. Fast forward around 10 minutes of game time, and we've got a tie ball game just a moment ago, a 2-point Lynchburg lead. So let you do the math on that one, but Lynchburg has been hot offensively and strong defensively. How about that pass? Lynchburg doesn't have a football team, but if it did, put Kevon James at quarterback. As he throws a dart down low to Mason Makovic.
Yeah, and Mason Makovic, a guy that has really stepped up a couple times this year for the Hornets. We haven't seen him much tonight, but I mean, he can match up with the size of this Virginia Wesleyan team. So I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen him as much. But on the defensive end, he provides a lot, and obviously on offense makes that good cut to the basket, provides passing lane for Kevon James.
Yeah, Makovic, fantastic sophomore campaign this year, improving upon his freshman season, and that Eastern Mennonite game setting a new career high at 12, he did just that. He kind of set up shop along the baseline and just make cuts to the basket. As long as the guards were able to find him, either driving or hanging out around the perimeter, it was an easy 2 points for Lynchburg. Kevon James, meanwhile, goes up with the acrobatic shot. That won't fall, but we'll send Lynchburg back for a couple more precious free throws in this game, just their third and fourth attempts.
Yeah, good job by James there to get his defender up in the air and then take advantage of that by driving. Obviously, you would take 2 points from the free throw line just as much as you would take that layup going in and not getting the foul.
James has not missed a free throw yet this season. That streak will continue. It's the guy that you would want on the line if you're Lynchburg. That will certainly come into play the way things are going now late in the game. Be worth taking a look at those free throw numbers.
Yeah, especially because every single point matters. So, I mean, one free throw right there could be the difference between maybe winning the game, going to overtime, or going back to your room upset that you lost the game.
A great one going on Wayne Prophet Court right now. Still 12 minutes to go. Now these two teams just kind of settling into a back and forth affair. Good ball movement from Virginia Wesleyan. Not ever to really able to find the open man. Instead, the ball eventually off the offensive rebound will land in the hands of Sargent, one of those fantastic first-year guards for Virginia Wesleyan. He's got two more. James looking for another pass, this time intended for the cutting Sutton. But a good job of Sargent on the defensive end, using his long arms to break up that pass. Sutton will be the inbounder. Gets it to Davis, recently checked back in, right around the three-point line. James will cut, lose the ball. We'll get another tie-up. This time, possession arrow pointing the way of the Marlins. So they're able to hold on to secure this jump ball. The last time it looked like we were going to get one. Pittman ends up just kind of snatching it away, picking up an easy basket.
Yeah, and Lynchburg showing there that they might set up that full court pressure and then backing off. It maybe just puts that in the head of head coach Dave Macedo. So, I mean, for the Hornets, if you can give those different looks on defense, it'll definitely change how Virginia Wesleyan is looking at this game.
Once again, a pass mishandled by Crump. This time it was high and right. Gets a hand on it, but passer was Joey Lee. He's trying to go across the court and couldn't connect with one another. Just an unforced error there for Virginia Wesleyan. Lynchburg able to take up shop once more. Parham pulls up for the shot, can't hit. For the rebound, well, rebound I guess really was not secured, but they say last touched. Looks like by Amari Moore, so the ball will stay with Lynchburg. But we've got a timeout here. We'll go ahead and take it with them. Step aside for just a few moments when we come back. Just 11 minutes to go here between the Marlins and the Hornets.
The biggest thing that I've taken from Westover is probably my interactions with faculty. I started working with Dr. Fryer. He's always available for help, and he makes sure that I get to do the experiments and not just be there while he does them. I didn't want to limit myself when I came here to just taking the prereqs for med school. I wanted to get a full, well-rounded education, and I definitely found that in the Westover program. It's given me the opportunity to keep playing soccer at a competitive level, but also it's given me the ability to be a student and to pursue other.
Well, we saw a bit of an unforced error bring a premature end to the last Virginia Wesleyan possession. That's been a bit of a trend that you noted, Andrew, at the halftime break, and we've seen it expand a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, thus far, Virginia Wesleyan, I mean, they're turning the ball over way more than Lynchburg is, 17 against 6. As we say that, Mason McCovic travels, but still 17-7. But we talked about the points off the turnovers, and Lynchburg has come out and scored 9 in the first 9 minutes of this game off of Virginia Wesleyan turnovers, and that's really been the difference in coming back in this game. So if they can continue that, then I'm sure they'll only see this lead extend.
Diving on the floor there is McCovic, unable to force a steal. Shot fake goes up from Rowland. Instead, kicks it out to Sargent. Back inside for Rowland. Good job by Sutton to use his body. Kind of force Rowland down along the baseline. Doesn't leave him with much room to work. Sutton tried the spin move. Shot will be blocked by Rowland. Big size mismatch that Landon Sutton was facing there. Good defensive play by Virginia Wesleyan. Now Sutton dives on the floor. 2-on-1 break for Lynchburg. James unable to finish but draws the foul. That will send him back to the line for 2 more attempts. He cashed in on his only other 2 attempts of the game.
Yeah, and Lynchburg doing a good job of turning defense into offense. They're obviously a great hustle and a great pass from Landon Sutton to kind of create that fast break opportunity. And while it won't go down as fast break points, shots from the free throw line are just as equal.
A lot of substitutions checking in here for Lynchburg, rather 2. Trey Pittman back into the game, as well as Kuda Savage. And we've talked about Savage's impact a few times today. It's not always on the scoreboard that he impacts the game, but some of the intangibles. You talked about the leadership, Andrew, but just think about the hustle that he gives his team every single time he's out on the floor, just plays as hard as he can.
Yeah, and he's only got 4 points tonight, but still it feels like he has a lot more, just considering how he passes the ball and creates space for other people. So very, very helpful to his team.
Ball saved there by Davis. Heck of an afternoon for him. Inside goes James, kicks outside to Parham. Good active hands there on the defensive end from Joey Lee, but he is not able to force the steal. Get a substitution for Virginia Wesleyan. Amari Moore back in. Sends Wilson to the bench. And now Lee will head to the bench as well. So the 5 on the floor for Virginia Wesleyan would be Sargent, Wilson, Crump, Jackson, and Rowland. Inside, contested shot there. Lynchburg comes away empty. Are nursing a 3-point lead right now. Controlled most, if not all, of this second half. Now force another steal, something Lynchburg is so good at. Parham smartly decides to set up things in the half court. They go once more to Pittman, trying to work inside, gets Moore in the air. Foul will be called on the floor. And like we noted in the first half, the foul's pretty low again here in the second. Just 7 between the 2 teams combined. Just 8:46 to play. Entry pass once again goes to Davis. He finds James down low. Davis the assist, James the bucket, and Lynchburg has its largest lead of the game. Get a disagreement down on the floor. Get a foul on Kuda Savage will be the word. He's speaking with the official. We'll stay here. Break down what we've seen in the last few moments of action here. Things have slowed down just a hair. Both teams still looking for quality shot opportunities. That was a great cut and find there between Elijah Davis and Kevon James, but walk us through the last few possessions here, Andrew.
Well, I think for Lynchburg, they're doing a good job of, obviously you saw their cutting to the basket and just trying to create easy shots. And whether they're contested or not, obviously the one on the fast break that Kevon James was fouled on, that's a shot you take all day, especially if it sends you to the line. So Lynchburg doing a good job of getting out in transition and just kind of passing the ball around until they have that open shot. But then on the other side, Virginia Wesleyan right now, they're doing a really good job of switching their forwards and centers onto smaller guards and trying to take advantage of that. Obviously, you saw it there. I believe they put more on Jordan Parham on the inside, and Parham came away with the ball maybe 2 possessions ago. But Lynchburg also doing a really good job of defending that, noticing that mismatch, and as soon as it gets into him, they are throwing a double on the guy who catches the ball for Virginia Wesleyan. And so it's kind of a good game of chess that you're watching right now between these two coaches based off of how either team is running their offenses.
Well, trotting back onto the floor, the 5 for Lynchburg. Pittman, Davis, Savage, James, and Parham. As you start to get into the territory of which players is Hillary Scott most comfortable having on the floor late in a close game, and that's what we're getting into here. Still 8 minutes to play. Bit of a mismatch there as James found himself matched up with Rowland. Does a good job staying in his face. And now, once again, Lynchburg staying active on defense and forcing another turnover. Taylor will check in for Pittman.
Yeah, and ever since we talked about how Pittman needs to Lynchburg needs to find other scorers than Pittman because Wesleyan is going to double down on him. I mean, they really have shut down Pittman in this game since then. So, obviously, Dave Macedo doing good things in his huddles and trying to keep Virginia Wesleyan in this game, and the key to that was to shut down Pittman, and now they're going to have to figure out how to get back in it and break down this Lynchburg defense.
Here's a good open look. Rowland checks his feet, makes sure it's a 3, and makes good on it. Rowland's had a quiet second half, but that will be his first triple of this second period after knocking down 2 in the first half. He's 3 of 3 from behind the line, a perfect 100%.
And a lot of those three-pointers that Virginia Wesleyan has been taking have been wide open.
This time, Parham gets the roll. He's been the victim of a few unlucky rolls in the first half. This time, luck falling in his favor. Jackson, ball taken away from James. Would have been an uncontested layup, but travel called. Good call there by the officials. So Lynchburg instead having to do it in the half court, but that really hasn't been an issue today.
No, they've been doing a really good job, and anytime you can turn them over, whether it's going to lead to points initially or if you're going to be able to maybe run 30 seconds off the off the game clock, then, I mean, it kind of goes the same thing as scoring 2 points right away.
You look at this Lynchburg defensive side of things, and especially Parham and James just so good at forcing steals. That time Parham gets caught traveling. He hits the ground hard as well. Thought he was going to draw a foul, threw the shot up to try and make it a shooting, but instead it'll be Virginia Wesleyan ball. Wallace running the point for the Marlins. Screen up high. Now there is the screener, Wilson. Pittman all over him, gets his hands up there, but somebody lost track of Sargent, and he comes soaring in for the putback layup. On the other end, James pulls up. Probably not the shot Lynchburg was looking for. Virginia Wesleyan able to go right back to work on offense. Foul called on the floor. That's either going to be Taylor or Pittman. It's going to be Pittman. No worries, as that's just his first of the game. Take a look at it again. Just gets his elbow up a little too close to the face of Wilson. Referee didn't like it. So Virginia Wesleyan will set up off the inbounds pass. They find an open Crump in the corner, and anytime you leave him open, he will make you pay. He showed that in the first half. Davis trying to do it on the other side. Leaves that one just a little short.
Yeah, and that last play was something that we've seen from Lynchburg all year. On inbound plays, Lynchburg just kind of loses one man every single time, and obviously right there it turns into a three, which then coming down the other side gives them confidence to hit another and extend this Virginia Wesleyan lead. And just like that, the Marlins are up again.
Crump with back-to-back triples. Puts Virginia Wesleyan back on top in this one. 68-64. They're on the move offensively again. Lynchburg nearly forced the steal, but the ball just falls right into the lap of Wilson. And all he has to do is convert on the layup. Just an unlucky break there from Lynchburg. Taylor poking that ball away. But he just pokes it to the wrong guy.
Yeah, I mean, pretty good defensive possession when you think about it. I mean, they almost poked it away. If he hadn't have been cutting to the basket, it wouldn't have ended up the way it did. But that's kind of how it went in the first half. It felt like every single rebound just fell right to Virginia Wesleyan onto the basket, and it was just an easy point for the Marlins.
Yeah, very quickly, Virginia Wesleyan now finds themselves leading by 6. Trailed for a majority of this second half. But they've found their legs in the last few moments, and it's going to be interesting to see out of the timeout now how Lynchburg responds, particularly offensively. See whether or not they maintain that same composure that they've shown through this second half so far.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I mean, you're down 6 points, but 6 points is 2 possessions, especially when there's 5 minutes left. So if you're the Hornets, you don't need to get into that mode where you have to shoot the three, you have to go down and shoot a contested shot early in a shot clock. You can take your time and try and break down this Marlin defense. And I would not be surprised to see Virginia Wesleyan maybe give a couple different looks and switch a couple different guys on the defensive end to maybe just lock down this Hornet offense.
Absolutely. It reminds me, I mentioned that 11-0 run that Eastern Mennonite put together coming out of the break in last Saturday's contest. Lynchburg called timeout after 3 relatively lackluster offensive possessions. And coming out of that timeout, I don't remember a bad possession the rest of the way. I mean, Lynchburg just looked energized. They looked comfortable and confident. We'll see if that's the case here again. They look for Pittman, but he is pushed back by Wilson, catches that ball all the way back to the three-point line. Backs him down right to the free throw line, and Pittman looks like he got right where he wanted to get to and banks it in. 23 for Trey Pittman, who's had a quiet second half, but continues to provide for this Lynchburg team, especially there with needing a bucket. Sargent, the body control that he displays close to the basket, is the shortest guy on the court right now other than Kuda Savage. Just has immense control over where his body goes when he gets in amongst the trees. So Taylor will draw the foul on the other end for Lynchburg. A few more free throw attempts than we saw in the first half. It's good on the first. Just one shy of double figures. Doesn't get there on this trip, goes 1 for 2. Does draw Lynchburg back to within 5. We'll see. Now down the last 4 or so minutes of this game. Does Lynchburg have another run in them? Wilson has something to say about it. He's come alive the last few possessions.
Well, I think the answer for the Hornets relies more on the defensive end rather than the offensive end. Because obviously they've shown that they can score and that they could get to the free throw line recently. But, I mean, you can get to the free throw line every possession, but if you're giving up a bucket on the other side, then it's not helpful in coming back. So they're going to need to figure out a way to maybe just control where each person's mark is, especially in the paint, because that seems to be where all the points are coming from right now for the Marlins.
Well, down 7, 2 big free throws, needless to say here from Trey Pittman. Good on the first. He has 24. Good free throw shooter is Pittman. And he goes 1 for 2, just as Miles Taylor did. Virginia Wesleyan, they go to Wilson again. Block by Trey Pittman. Wilson fighting with 3 Hornet defenders to try and grab that rebound. Makes life hard on Lynchburg, but eventually the Hornets are able to maintain possession. Savage thought several times, eventually does go up with a 3. Pittman attempted to tap that rebound outside to the perimeter, but instead corralled by Wilson, who's seemingly everywhere right now.
It seemed like Miles Taylor might have had a little bit of a mismatch down there inside the three-point line, and it would have been, he wanted Kuda Savage to throw him the ball in there, obviously. Good defensive pressure to disallow that from Virginia Wesleyan.
Young goes soaring past Rowland, who was looking for a 3. Had an open look at it, just wasn't able to convert. Back into the lane goes Sargent. Took a little bit of a bump from Pittman, no foul called. Lynchburg heading the other direction. Savage thought about a 3, finds Pittman in rhythm. 3 ball off the mark. Did look like he may have rushed that shot just a bit. Now timeout called. Just 2:34 to go in this game. We'll take it with them. Give us a chance to catch our breath before we return for what should be an action-packed final 2.5 minutes here from Turner Gymnasium.
The biggest thing that I've taken from Westover is probably my interactions with faculty. I started working with Dr. Fryer. He's always available for help, and he makes sure that I get to do the experiments and not just be there while he does them. I didn't want to limit myself when I came here to just taking the prereqs for med school. I wanted to get a full, well-rounded education, and I definitely found that in the Westover program. It's given me the opportunity to keep playing soccer at a competitive level, but also it's given me the ability to be a student and to pursue other activities such as EMS. "100% do Westover because it's not something they're going to regret, and it's going to be a lot of work, but so is everything else. It's just going to help build their education that they've already had and make them a better person for it."
Take a look now at Jordan Crump, giving the Marlins a big scoring lift, especially in this second half. Hit back-to-back three-pointers. There's the first of those 2. Brought his scoring total to 18 points. He's done a great job in giving this Marlins team a lift and not only putting them back in this game, but helping build up this 6-point lead that they now hold.
And yeah, also to note, he is still perfect from the field, 7 for 7 from the field, obviously, and then 4 for 4 from behind the arc. So he really is having such an incredible game with 7 rebounds and 2 assists.
Wilson, the dunk in the face of Davis. Once again, positioning himself in a position to take that ball, turn, and make a play. That time he chooses to go for the dunk. As Crump, aforementioned, active on the defensive end, but pokes that into the Lynchburg bench. Seems to be a new energy on the Virginia Wesleyan sideline. Ball swings over to Davis. Lynchburg needs a bucket, down 8. They go to Young for it, and he draws a foul. Frustration will draw a technical on Wilson, and that is the last thing that you want to see from Virginia Wesleyan. Just slap that ball in frustration back against the back wall here. See a strong take from Young. Draws the contact, unable to convert, but get a chance to earn it. Plus the technical free throw that will be awarded.
Yeah, and that's huge for the Hornets, considering that for a second it looked like it might be a ill-advised shot driving to the basket, especially with 2 or 3 different Virginia Wesleyan defenders down there, but it's actually going to come out pretty positive for the Hornets here.
Pearson Young just around 69% on the year from the line. But he converts on his first 2. And boy, does Lynchburg need him. So they trail by just 6 now. And now we'll get the fouls awarded, or rather the free throws awarded to the shooting foul. And all of a sudden, a possession that could have brought Lynchburg to within just 6, now can bring them to within 4.
Yeah, and it's something that if you're head coach Dave Macedo, you're definitely not happy with, considering that was just completely unnecessary, being up 8 points. I mean, a half-decent defensive stand, you give up a foul, and now suddenly, out of nowhere, Pearson Young finds 4 points in the form of 4 free throws, and Virginia Wesleyan, who looked like they had a firm control on this game, it's now back up in the air.
Yeah, Pearson Young, as the 3 goes up, Crump, he cannot miss. 5 for 5 from downtown. He's got 21, other side. Pearson Young has come alive. The freshman, just his 3rd game on this court. Rather quiet game for him for the most part, but in the last 30 seconds or so, has just come alive, trying to give Lynchburg a boost. Moves up on Crump. Crump gets around and passes off. Now here comes the floater. Shot no good. Wilson, once again in the right place. Goes back up and in off the offensive rebound. Lynchburg transition. Pearson Young. Could not hit on the 3. Savage moves in to try and get in the face of Sargent driving the lane. Couldn't get there in time, or rather did get there in time, but couldn't corral his momentum enough to make a good attempt at a defensive stop. Now we'll get a bucket from Miles Taylor, but very quickly a whole lot changing in just the last 30 seconds or so in this game.
Yeah, just when you thought Lynchburg was right back in and only down 4, Virginia Wesleyan goes down, knocks down a 3, and then just takes firm control of the game. As soon as I said that, the 3 goes in, and it's something that for Lynchburg, I mean, you've been in this game all day. Obviously, 2 bad possessions are not going to hurt that, and you're down 7. It's going to be difficult to come back to this point, but I mean, Pearson Young stepping up. He's got 11 right now for the Hornets, and 7 of which have come in the last minute and a half in regulation. So, I mean, positives to draw on right now, but for a game that you led late into the second half, it definitely does not feel good to be behind Virginia Wesleyan right now.
Absolutely. I have to imagine in that huddle right now, both teams drawing up, focusing a lot on just getting across the timeline for Virginia Wesleyan, breaking down what I'm sure will be a Lynchburg press. And for Lynchburg, trying to put together an effective press that, well, best case scenario forces a 5-second violation. If not that, possibly a turnover either in the form of a steal or a trap that results and an 8-second violation. But again, at that point, you're running time off the clock that you really don't have to spare.
Yeah, but Lynchburg has done a really good job recently about playing in that full court pressure and getting teams to turn it over, whether it happens in the backcourt or the front court. It kind of sends a message to the other team about how they're going to play the next 36 seconds, that they're going to do it with a pace and kind of a physicality that we haven't seen thus far.
Biggest thing for Lynchburg here, and it'll be the role of Miles Taylor, making sure that if the press is broken quickly, that you don't give up an easy layup. Will not get to that point as Kevon James fouls Wallace. Of course, Lynchburg, that was just their 6th team foul, so had one to give. So they were going to run through everything again. Little bit of trouble getting it in, then easily finds Sargent. No foul called. Young tried to give him a little bump with his body. And 5 more seconds run off the clock, and now just 28 ticks remain here inside Turner Gymnasium. Sargent will be the free throw shooter. He hits on the first, again a 1-and-1. So makes on the big one. Pittman checks back into the game for Taylor. And Davis comes in for Pearson Young, so rather Kevon James, so maybe a little offense for defense there. One more awaiting Sargent at the line. He's put together solid offensive performance today. Really been everywhere. He's up to 16 in the scoring column, but 4 rebounds, 5 assists to go with, and a lot of really solid defense as well. Leaves the first one off the front iron. Crump soars in for the rebound, but it hits the top of the backboard first. So Lynchburg escapes unscathed there. Looks like Pittman may have taken a little inadvertent contact during the proceedings. Shakes it off, runs down the court. Savage quickly gets to the basket, can't convert. Pearson Young can't convert. 3 close opportunities for Lynchburg. None of them fall. We're going to go to break.
My name is Marlene Castaños. I graduated in 2009. I was a communication major. I am a digital producer now for the Marlins agency. So we have a lot of amazing clients from Geico to Land O'Lakes to Oreo. So we get to create amazing content, all those funny Geico commercials that you see. And as a digital producer, I get to create amazing content for digital. I was very highly involved here. I was president of my class while I was here. I was president of the Hispanic Society. I joined a sorority when I was here. I had like 2 jobs. So having a sense of managing my time, it kind of pushed me to be better at my job right now. Just knowing that you had someone on your corner was really important, and they really took the time to really invest in their students. I felt like I had a cheerleading squad behind me at every single point. They were the ones that encouraged me to look for those opportunities, to push myself to be better. So it's definitely truly an amazing place. I brag about this place all the time. So if anyone gets lucky enough to be part of this community, it's life-changing.
Everyone has a story. A triumph, a time they fell short, a gift, a light all their own. Every story has a beginning. For us, our stories began long before we got here, at the moment we discovered we had something to share with the world. But no matter where we've been, our journeys weave together at the University of Lynchburg. Since 1903, we've grown from a handful of students to a diverse, dynamic community of students, professors, staff, and alumni around the world. In a community that supports who we are and who we want to be, we're on a journey to find where our passions lead so we can lead others to find theirs. Together, we have more experience, we have more knowledge than we do alone. Eventually, our stories will lead us to a path all our own, and we will share our passions with the world. No matter the journey we choose, the University of Lynchburg is, and always will be, our home.
Here's to life and here's to Lynchburg, to the years we spent together. I don't know when or how we gathered, but I know I'm home. So here's to love and here's to the heartache, all the laughter, every mistake. I don't know how our lives will be changed, but here I am home. Here I'm home.
At Lynchburg, we don't fear change. We embrace it in our students, on our campus, in our community, and around the world. We're building on our legacy of always moving forward. It's the same place with a new name. Welcome to the University of Lynchburg.
My name is Taylor Clark, and I graduated in the spring of 2019, and I was a math major. and I'm currently a processing and packaging supply chain leader at Frito-Lay here in Lynchburg. As a math major, I loved every single second being in the classroom. I would fight for those professors, my classmates. I learned and grew as a person being in that class and challenging myself more than I would have ever thought I could. A big part of my job is root cause analysis and being able to look at a problem and figure out why did this happen and how can we make sure that this doesn't happen again. So as a math major, you learn that you need to have fundamental truths before you make any other statement, make any other assumption. The reason why I chose Lynchburg, and it's the general consensus on campus, is the relationship you get to build with your professors. And that sense of community that you get where you and your peers all understand and know that the people who are trying to push me to be better also will support me through it all.
Carrie Brewer became the 7th president of Lynchburg College in 1964, only 15 years after his graduation in 1949. During those intervening years, he had earned a PhD in public policy from Harvard, served as an aide to 2 major congressional committees, and was the director of emergency preparedness in the Kennedy administration. Returning to his alma mater, he hit the ground running. Dr. Brewer initiated a change in the college charter to allow students of all races to enroll. He cut the standard faculty teaching load by 20%. He improved faculty and staff salaries and increased the size of the faculty and the student body. He sought to raise the visibility of the college in Lynchburg as well as the larger community by offering graduate programs in education, business, and physics to meet identified needs in Central Virginia. An enthusiastic fan of LC sports, Dr. Brewer added administrative support to the college's athletic programs, resulting in the emergence of Lynchburg College as a national athletic power. During his presidency, Snido Chapel, the courts, McWayne, Tate, and Montgomery residence halls, the Burton Student Center, Turner Gymnasium, Wakefield House, Foxfield, the Dillard Fine Arts Building, the Capron Library, and the residences on Faculty Drive were added to the college physical plan. Also, Memorial Gymnasium was transformed into Hall Campus Center. Carnegie Hall was converted into faculty offices, and the surviving World War II Quonset hut was remodeled into the psychology building. However, perhaps the greatest legacy left Lynchburg College by Carrie Brewer is the attitude embedded in his oft-repeated statement that a great college is always in the process of becoming. In the decade since he retired, Lynchburg College has become a university and has continued to grow and change, moving ever closer towards becoming the institution envisioned by a 36-year-old neophyte college president over half a century ago.
My name is Jen Hyde. I graduated in 2018 and I got my major in philosophy, political science, and I minored in human services. And career-wise, right now I work at a residential treatment center for juveniles with sexually reactive behaviors. I would say the biggest advantage is definitely that it is a small campus. You know, you get to have that one-on-one with your professors. They're willing to help you out. They're going to get to know you more than just a student that they're teaching. You know, they really invest into your lives. Definitely use every resource that you can kind of get at Lynchburg. There's tons of mentors within the professors, the faculty, the staff here, your peers that are here. You have so many options that you can take. There's so many classes, you know, even if it's not within your major, if there's a class you're interested in, take it. Kind of explore your options because Lynchburg does have such a wide variety of different things that you can do. You know, be involved, become a well-rounded individual because Lynchburg sets up the support to where you can do that here.
John Eckles joined the Lynchburg College community in 1986 as Director of Housing. As his famous beard grew, so too did his stature with the students he served on a daily basis. He seemed to be everywhere and rapidly became an integral part of campus life. He was asked to serve temporarily as Dean of Students in 1993 and soon earned the position on a permanent basis. In 2007, he became Vice President for Student Development, a position he held until his retirement in 2016. Simply put, John Eckles set the standard for student affairs professionals. He led the growth of Hornet Pride throughout the last 2 decades of his service through his direct and constant interaction with students, through his colorful sense of humor, through his visibility on
Well, Anthony Jackson, able to get up, was helped off the floor by a few of his teammates. We certainly wish him all the best. Be sure to check in with any and all Virginia Wesleyan social media for updates on how he is doing. Time will run out here, and Virginia Wesleyan will come away with the win. But once again, above all else, just hope that Anthony Jackson is doing okay, that his health is all in good condition. That's going to do us for today here on LHSN.